My presentation is on the ethical and environmental problem of harp seal hunting. Archaeological evidence indicates that the Native Americans and Canada's First Nations people have been hunting seals for at least 4,000 years. The Canadian commercial seal hunt has been going on ever since the 16th century, roughly about the mid 16th century to late 16th century. Traditionally, seals were hunted as a means of survival. The Inuit and Eskimos hunted seals for their fur to make coats, pants, anything that would keep them warm and keep them dry, as the fur is waterproof, and this just protected them from the harsh Arctic climates that they lived in. Today, the seals are hunted again for their fur, but it is sold as a high dollar fashion item once it is made into these expensive coats. When a seal is first born, it has soft white fur, and this is what is known as a white-coat seal. It is illegal to hunt the white-coats. Now, once a seal reaches 4 weeks old, it is a pup. That is when the seals become illegal to hunt. That is when the seals have the softest fur as well, aside from the white-coats. Obviously, the hunter's primary target is the 4-week pups. That is when they are first legal, and that is when the fur is the softest, so it is going to fetch the highest price at market. The main ways that they hunt harp seals is guns, clubs, and a tool known as a hakapick that is native to the hunt. Guns generally tend to be ineffective as conditions are usually unfavorable as ranged weapons go. Most of the time, the shot is being taken from the front of a boat, and winds in the Arctic can reach very high miles per hour. This makes even a 50-meter shot very hard for the sealers to hit. So they prefer to use blunt weapons such as the clubs and the hakapiks. Their main goal is to knock the seal unconscious before bleeding the seal, effectively killing it. Canadian regulations on the harp seal hunt dictates that a seal must be knocked unconscious in the first swing for it to be a humane death. However, as we'll see, most of the seals are not knocked unconscious on the first swing. This is a short video showing raw, uncut footage of the 2010 seal hunt. It is a bit graphic. Show it at the end. In, I believe it was 2008, Dr. Butterworth, a veterinarian from the University of Bristol, performed a study on the Canadian seal hunt. One of his colleagues performed 76 post-mortem procedures on seals that the hunters had killed themselves. Of the 76 seals, 17% had no apparent skull fractures. This equates to roughly 13 seals. In this state, unconsciousness was highly improbable in these 13 seals. A further 25% more, which is roughly 19 seals, had minimal fractures like hairline fractures and damage along that line. And in this state, unconsciousness could not be guaranteed. Although it was possible, it was also very improbable. This means that a total 42%, or roughly 32 seals out of 76, were likely conscious at the time of their bleeding, effectively rendering them conscious at the time of their death. Additionally, Dr. Butterworth himself examined 17 seals killed by the Canadian hunters, and 78%, roughly 13 seals, were not checked for any kind of corneal response to indicate unconsciousness. Corneal check is simply they shine a flashlight in the eye of the seal, and if there's any kind of response in the eye, the cornea, pupil dilation, anything along that line, then the seal is still conscious. And Canadian regulations on the seal hunt also dictate that a check must be performed prior to the bleeding process of the seal. And of the 17 seals analyzed by Dr. Butterworth, 83%, which is roughly 14 seals, responded to being cut during the bleeding procedure. And 33% of the 17 seals, which is roughly 6 seals, had to be clubbed again because they awoke from an unconscious state during the bleeding procedure and had to be clubbed again to then be rendered unconscious. This is a picture from the Independent Veterinarians Working Group. It shows recommended practices for sealing. It shows the regulated weapons, everything like that. It also shows another type of check, which they call a cranial check. If the skull is crushed and soft, then unconsciousness can be guaranteed. But if the skull is not crushed in any form, then the unconsciousness cannot be guaranteed and is probable, and a corneal check should be performed prior to cutting. Finally is the bleeding process, which a lot of these seals were likely conscious for. They would cut down the seal's belly, cut main arteries or blood vessels in its armpits, and let the seal bleed to death. Many of these seals were still conscious, as proven by Dr. Butterworth, while they were being bled. Many of these seals were slowly bleeding to death, and they knew it. Probably the saddest part about the Canadian Harp seal hunt is that roughly 80 to 81% of the Harp seal is wasted. The carcass is left on the ice, and only the fur and the coat itself is skinned and taken back with the hunters to be tanned and sold and exported. This means that all these seals that are being hunted in excess serve no other purpose to the hunters than a paycheck, and they serve as nothing but a high dollar fashion item. Unlike the Inuit people who would use many parts of the seal, and it was necessary to their survival and their way of life, a high dollar expensive seal coat is not necessary for a person to live. It simply is not ethical. Not only is the hunting of many seal pups affecting the harp seals, and so is the rapid decline of Arctic ice. This video explains the decline of Arctic ice and how much ice we effectively have lost over the years. This is a chart showing the downward trend of our average monthly Arctic sea ice extent. It ranges from 1979 to 2012. This graph right here shows the average monthly Arctic sea ice extent from 1979 to 2012. It has been in decline ever since the end of the 1970s. It shows a downward trend starting in 1979, probably before then. This is just when satellite data, everything like that was gatherable. It shows a consistent downward trend to present day. Right here, it only shows 2012, but with other data, it is still continuing to go down. Why is Arctic ice important? Arctic ice serves as a home for almost every single marine mammal in the Arctic region. Not only does it serve a home for many marine mammals, it serves as a home for land mammals as well in the Arctic region, like the polar bear and the Arctic fox. Specifically to the harp seals, it serves as a breeding ground. Every February, the harp seals come to the Arctic ice to breed and to birth their young. The mothers birth their young and stay on this ice for 4 weeks to nurse them. Once they are, once the seals reach 4 weeks old, they're weaned off of their mother, and the mother to leave them. The seals are there by themselves until they reach full maturity and are able to venture out into deep ocean water by themselves. The seal pups will likely spend 8 weeks on the ice before they are able to go into the ocean by themselves. 4 weeks with their mother and then 4 weeks alone, fasting, gaining strength, learning to swim, things like that. The second 4 week period is the prime time for these hunters to target the harp seals. Not only is global warming decreasing our Arctic ice, but so is these massive sealing ships. Every year, these massive Canadian sealing ships come to the mass packs of Arctic ice and destroy thousands and thousands of kilometers of it, just turning it to slush, rendering it unusable to the seals in any way. A lot of it, due to global warming, will never refreeze, will never form ice again, and it will just stay ocean water. They do not realize the damage that they are doing to the marine environment. They do not realize how important that this ice is to the northern Arctic region. Through the decline of our Arctic ice and the excessive hunting of these harpsbill pups, the harpsbill species as a whole could be soon endangered or, in an extreme case, even extinct. And we know that this not only would affect the harp seals, but this would affect the whole ecosystem of the Arctic. Entire populations like the capelin would skyrocket beyond their carrying capacity, and competition over food would be a major problem in that species. Other populations like the harbor seal and the killer whale would also be affected. The killer whale specifically would lose a major source of food, although it will not be affected as much because it still has sources of food like the ring seal and the harbor seal. The harp seal still is one of the largest and most populous species of seal in the Arctic region, serving as one of the major food sources for a killer whale. So the population of killer whales would no doubt be affected if the Hartsfields were to become endangered or extinct. If they were to become extinct, this would cause a major trophic cascade in the Arctic region, and as we know, this is not good at all. This would upset the balance of the region as a whole, and that is not good at all. Luckily, in 2010, the World Trade Organization placed a ban on seal products to the European Union. The European Union is most of Central Europe, includes places like the UK, France, Spain, Germany, places like that. Those are the main places that seal fur is exported to, is the European Union. The US also has a ban on the trade of seal products. It has had a ban for decades. However, the seal hunt is still going on because of this ban, despite this ban, but it has experienced a decline since this ban. Since 2006, the number of sealers has decreased exponentially. In 2014, there was only recorded 393 sealers active that year during the hunt, whereas in 2006 there was 5,594 sealers. That is a decrease of over, I believe, 4,000 if my math is right. Despite the acts of the Canadian government to subsidize the seal hunting industry, it has still continued to decline in recent years. As this chart shows right here, the export value as well of seal harp skins has decreased drastically. The net export value every year that Canada gets from its annual hunt has dropped ever since 2006. It rose a little bit in 2010, but ever since roughly middle of the year 2012 to 2013, it has been under $2 million annually. Many government officials of Canada argue that the sealing industry is vital to Canada's economy. However, according to this graph and facts, we know that this is not true. $2 million is not enough to even put a dent into Canada's economy. If $2 million is all that is holding Canada's economy afloat, then Canada's in some serious trouble. The fact of the matter is, every year seals are treated inhumanely, hunted to excess simply for high dollar fashion, as at this point merely a sport, because the value of the skins has decreased so much that it's basically irrelevant to go hunt them in the first place. You don't make any money. Many sealers are off-season fishermen. They do this as fun for a pastime every year during the winter months when fishing is out of season. The sealing industry has to stop, or at least severely decline, and be controlled with heavy regulations, like humane regulations to ensure that seals are killed humanely, or at least as humanely as possible, and seals are not hunted to excess like they are now.